Welcome to Keep Hustling, where we are going past the why to get to the how. I'm your host, the always hustling Aaron Gordon, aka NY Risk Advisor, aka Mr. #Keep Hustling. In this podcast, we will be diving deep into the professional and personal successes of our guests to find out how they hustled through the most difficult times in their life and their development to achieve the success they've gotten to today. So buckle up for what hopes to be an amazing ride. Let's get to it. Welcome to Keep Hustling with my guest, Joel Miller. Joel, thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you for being a host, and I am looking forward to an awesome episode today.
You know, you said I'm looking forward to it, but I have a question. You said you're from the Twin Cities before we went on the air, but you don't have that Minnesota accent. Like, where do you not play hockey? I know you cycle.
I wish I played more hockey. I am not originally from here. If you have kids in the audience, you know that you want to try to be as close to either parents or in-laws as you possibly can. Raising kids are some of the most rewarding, but also some of the most challenging times. So what we tried to do, we moved from the East Coast. I grew up in Chicago, born and raised, diehard all Chicago sports teams. We were on the East Coast for 10 years. Yeah. And we moved back to the Midwest to be closer to my in-laws and also my parents so we can raise the kids. And it was a great move. My wife is from here. I've loved it. I've actually been very impressed by it. I was a little nervous about the weather, but it's been 2 years and we're still here.
How many kids do you have?
2 boys, 3 and 1.
Love that. I have 5, 4 girls and 1 boy.
That is amazing. That's the dream. Good for you.
It's pretty fun. Just one had a broken leg, just got her cast off today, so we're pretty pumped about that. There's a lot to unpack in this episode. I've been thinking a lot about it. I've been pumped about it, as I mentioned early on before we went live. And what I specifically want to focus on as we progress are the mistakes that younger people make with the following attitude. And then I'm going to ask you some questions leading up to it. I don't need to use Joel's services. I am not worthy, quote unquote, of Joel's services. Because what I have found in our business, in the service business, is that obviously we'll work with clients of any age, but presumably the target market for both of us, we're in a similar age bracket, are not, and I love working with them, but are not 68-year-old couples who are thinking about sunsetting their career and going and retiring. We'll work with them. But if you think about at 30 years old or 38 years old, the people that we work with on a daily basis, part of what we have to do is convince them, quote unquote, to get out of their own head and start utilizing our services. So I want to talk a lot about that, but I want to just step back. You said you're from Chicago. What made you want to get into the business of helping others find financial freedom?
I could not think of a more rewarding business. Not a lot of things have a lifelong or generational impact. Your finances, your personal finances, and the financial decisions you make are one of those. Whether it's a small or a big decision, that could literally impact you for the next 30 years. That could impact your kids or your grandkids. So I could not think of a better place to teach, equip, and push people into becoming the best version of themselves compared to personal financing. So once I learned about this industry, I fell in love with it. It's a relationship business. So all I really get to do at my core is walk through life side by side, ideally taking a lot of burdens off of your shoulders and putting those responsibilities on my back and the business. So that way you can live a more fulfilling, time-filled life, creating memories and doing the things that you love with the people that you love doing it with.
I love that. You stole one of my questions, which is great, or you set it up. And that is, I assume you're going to say that one of the biggest misconceptions about what you do for younger people is the impact, the snowball effect of small decisions. So can you take us through that? I assume a lot of what you have to explain is like, you don't realize that if you do this, or if your mortgage, if you buy a house and you spend this, or you put a little bit more down, but then it's kind of like when your eyes are open to the making the extra mortgage payment every year and like putting up the paycheck. I don't know if you're a fan of that, but when a person sees that, I was like, hold on a second, I can cut 9 years off of my mortgage and regiment my payments. It's like, 9 years at this amount, forgetting about the interest. It's just a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like, what are the snowballs that you think people overlook, and how do you get them to focus more on them?
Yeah, I love the way that you brought that up because there's so many, right? I could pick 10 to 20 to 30 different subjects and be like, hey, have you ever thought about this? And the answer is typically no, or, oh, I never thought about that way. Seeing those light bulb moments is everything. And it could be anywhere from budgeting to investing to buying a house to raising your kids to starting your own business. We could pick any one of those avenues, and there could be some of those light bulb moments. I actually made a video on this. I do short form content where I just post and I try to break myths in the financial world. I try to educate. I try to bring up things that you would have never thought before. You would think that every single person has a retirement age. But what I realized, one of the very first questions I ask my new clients is, let's pencil in a goal, an age for retirement. And just making up numbers here, 90% of them have no clue. And that's what blows my mind, is that we are so hardworking. We are hustling. We are grinding. We're going through, especially in your 30s. This is probably going to dictate the next 40 years of your life. And one of the most important factors of when you want to slow down, when you want to stop working, we are literally too busy to think about one of the most important thoughts. So that's what I love, is trying to get through some of these things. Let me bring up subjects. Let me ask you questions that you do not even have the time to even think about the answer to that question without assistance.
I love that. I want to get back to my other question, but you just pointed something interesting. I love the fact that you said pencil in a date, because one of the things we talk a lot about here on Keep Hustling is the fact that I feel what gets a lot of people, what trips a lot of people up or stalls a lot of people's growth, desires, chasing their dreams, or even taking the next step, is the fact that they feel that everything needs to be permanent.
100%.
You didn't say mark it down in stone and sign it in blood, but having that penciled in says, here's my goal. And by the way, 10 years from now, I could see, or 20 years, right? Presumably you're sitting with your contact, hey, I love this. I own my business. My kids are working in the business. Retirement, rid of that. Or
totally,
I made more money than I ever thought. Retirement 5 years earlier. So I love the fact that one of the things that you're preaching, and it fits so well with Keep Hustling, is pencil, but keep penciling.
Yes.
Don't say, because I'm not sure, I'm not going to have the conversation, set the target, and set a goal just because it's in pencil and nobody can put it in pen.
We will get to the red pen later in life. We need to start using pen in your 50s, late 50s or 60s. But when you're in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, we are penciling up that baby all the time. That financial plan, obviously, we're not using paper anymore because we're not living in like the 1800s, but we can pencil everything in. One of the things I live and die by is progress over perfection. If you try to aim for perfection, you are never going to hit it. No one none of the professional athletes, none of the actors, actresses, movie stars, no one went from zero to perfect. But you know what they did? They started and they worked and they hustled and they grinded, and that's how they got there today. But they went through tons of failures. They went through so much hard moments, difficult times, and progress. The same thing is true for you in your life, but you got to start. You have to make that progress before you reach perfection. And if we never get to perfection, who cares? But that shouldn't stop us from starting at all.
I love that. And I recently saw an awesome video meme clip from Tiger Woods. And he actually said, and it was just shocking to me because obviously it's true, but hearing someone like him say the following, which is, he was referring to golf. He was on a golf cart and he said, this game is too hard to strive for perfection. And I just find it amazing that everyone would assume that Tiger Woods got as close to perfection as possible. And the fact that even he would acknowledge that this game, and especially the game of life, and especially the game of finance, and especially the game of planning, right, even more than golf, are too hard. There's too many unpredictable things that I love that. And I love that gem from you. I want to just step back for a second. You didn't give me the answer that I wanted. You didn't give me an example of something that a small mistake that people, or thing that people don't think about, which is fine. I'm just willing to let it slide because I'm going to force you to answer this one, which is more difficult or more challenging or might be more controversial. And that is, when you meet with people in their 20s and 30s, what is the item or the philosophy that they come into your office with most, that is the most wrong? Meaning, when people think, the average person thinks, I need to do X, and they're totally wrong about it. I don't want to say old time thinking because I don't want to knock on old people, but it's like, or the old school thinking, but like, you have this all wrong. Everybody comes in and they say, I had a conversation on this podcast with someone about the previous American dream of buying a house. And now so many people, that doesn't even enter their radar. And maybe it does. If it does, that should be
Yeah.
your goal. But I'm just saying, but it's like, what is it that people come in that they think is so important that you're like, you have this all wrong? That's important. That's important. But let me tell you 3 or 4 things that are far more important that if you did them, you'd see more success.
Yeah, I think of 2 right away. The first one I think of is that everyone, especially in the last 5 to 10 years, everyone wants to buy a rental property. Everyone comes in saying, I have to get a rental property,
Passive
or
income,
else
I'm the king.
there's no way that I'm going to have financial freedom. There's no way that I'm going to create generational wealth unless I have multiple properties here in the US that I can charge people rent on. So that is 100% a myth that I've been trying to bust. Is it is not passive income. Is it a way to build your wealth? Does it lead to a lot of success for a lot of people? Absolutely. Is it the only way to build wealth? 100% wrong. So that is something that I've been busting for years now, because so many people come in, and I'll actually give like a flip answer. One of the things that some people don't think they need to do that I think everyone needs to do is have a general idea of what's coming in and what's going out from an income and an expenses perspective.
Oh, it's so scary. When you actually sit down and budget, when my wife and I actually sit down and budget, oh man, it's scary.
Oh yeah. When you make, I'm just throwing out general numbers. People who make less than 100,000 are much more conscious of what they make and what they spend. But once you start making better money than maybe what you make historically or what your parents made, there's a flip that gets switched of when you're like, I don't need to worry about this anymore. I ask people, I'm like, all right, what do we make? And they don't know. I ask people, hey, what do you spend? And they don't know. For some reason, once we start making around that 150 to 250 range, it's like we forget that it matters where that money goes, and we can just swipe the credit card. We can take out loans. We can have 4 or 5 payments in all these different areas. So that's something that I continue to preach. You do need to know what you make. You do need to know what you spend, and what's left over. That's where the magic happens. That's where we can put towards debt. That's where we can invest, we can save, we can change the generational lives of our kids and our grandkids. So I would say those are the 2 biggest things that come to mind. Is rental properties are not, especially today, your only way to create financial freedom. And on the flip side, I don't care how much you make, you need to have a general idea of what you make and what you spend and what's left over at the end of every month.
So then why do you think people don't call you, right? I mean, let's talk about the person who's going from, I don't want to say the person who graduated college who just got their first job and is making, $48,000 as an entry level or whatever. I'm just because they have so much else going on there. They can't even think about planning. They don't plan their outfit or do their laundry for 3 months, let alone try to play. Let's say the day after the average person's wedding, or the day the person moves in with their significant other. I think that we can assume that that person is at least focused on some level of stability in their life, right? Or the day that they buy their first apartment, that when they have that initial settling moment, whatever that is, I would say the vast majority of people don't call you, as I said, or don't think that they're worthy enough or, flashy enough or have enough going on. Why should they call you? And what is the difference a person like you can make for them between it when they call you then and when they call you 5 years later, let's say?
I would say,
meaning they settle down, they get engaged, they want to get married, and then they say, "Forget it. We'll talk to Joe later. I see the value." And instead of calling you then, they call you when they have 2 kids.
We are too afraid to spend money in order to reach the best version of ourselves. You could say the same exact thing about a gym. Why don't more people go to the gym? Why don't more people hire a physical trainer in order to achieve their physical goals faster, more efficiently, and better, right? It's because we're too afraid to spend money on good things, and we want to continue wasting money on poor decisions. And it's just unfortunately how we're wired. The wise people can take a step back, think far enough into advance, and make decisions in a place of where they are not currently. That's what wise people do. Fools will make decisions thinking in the moment. They're too much in a box, and they're too afraid to spend money in order to achieve the best version of themselves. So if you make the appropriate money, if you have enough left over at the end of every single month, use it to better yourself. Are you going to see immediate results from the gym? No. But over time, it's a successful recipe to reach those physical goals. Are you going to see immediate results by working and hiring a financial planner? Maybe, depends on how much progress you have to make. I do think there will be immediate results. You will feel better. You will get stuff off your plate. Responsibilities won't be in your hands anymore. But it's really a marathon. And especially, I'm a triathlete, so I do half Ironmans. I am doing my very first marathon this year.
I just want you to know, I literally didn't bring that up as part of the intro because you're making me feel less of a person.
You know why I do it is because it is a goal.
I'm just kidding. It's my dream. I love it.
Well, you're going to do it. Everyone can do it. I would have said I never could have done it. And here I am. And it's just about setting goals that you think are just outside of your reach. That's why we do hard things. That's why we hustle to do the best that we can. By setting that for yourself, you are consistently pushing yourself to be the best. We should not settle. We should not be lazy. And if you set your goals too easy, that's all that life is going to become. So you need to surround yourself with people that you want to be like. So I'm going to be able to help you set goals, help you track them, and help you repencil in new goals, even things that you didn't think were possible, whether that's a retirement age or having and supplying a financial life for your kids or changing generations or buying a home. All of those goals that maybe you thought weren't possible by yourself, because they are really hard. Guess what? When you bring in someone else, when you have that accountability partner, it does get a whole lot easier.
I want to bring that back to keep hustling, which is, but yet so many people probably tell you, no, it's not for me. You're just being a salesman. I'll call you in 10 years. And you just have to keep pounding the pavement over and over and over again. How do you give us a tool of keep hustling in a service business that you know is valuable?
Yeah.
The most interesting part about a business like yours, more yours, but also mine, is that nobody ever tells me that they think that our service is not a valuable service in society. Sure. They just say your service is not for me because I am not of, I don't have XYZ money. I don't have XYZ asset. I don't have that. And so it's not like you're doing something that's scummy that people want to get away from and they're stuck with you until they can get away from it. So how do you just keep hustling through that and pushing through that?
I think that one of the ways that I did it through my business is creating a value and a service that is so good, it's really hard to say no to. I have yet to find another financial planning business that offers what we offer for the same price that we do. If you don't know, most financial planners, about 90% of advisors, want to charge you a percentage based on the amount that they're managing for you. And they're going to have a requirement that says you have to hand over $500,000, $1 million or more, or else we flat out don't want to work with you because you are not going to be paying us enough revenue or enough portion of your assets under management. So that's where I fell in love with flat fee financial planning, which is much more similar to a gym and a subscription and a membership instead of this old traditional model. So then how did I get to here today? Well, so many traditional advisors or flat fee companies only really want to help you with two of your financial pillars, investment management and financial planning. But they're missing these key other ones that is important to every single adult, which in my mind are tax filing. Everyone files a tax return every single year, and estate planning. If you have wealth, if you are 21 or above, you have assets, you have and probably should have an estate plan, will, power of attorney, medical directive, and guardianship paperwork if you have kids. So that's why I wanted to trailblaze a completely different business model compared to most people out there. I wanted to create a business that is still affordable, that is still providing tons of value by doing your investments, financial planning, tax filing, and estate planning. So when you create a business and a value that really does so much, thankfully, I'm not trying to come off across salesy, but it does make it a whole lot easier to sell when they're like, wow, they'll do all of those for me and I won't have to do those myself. That's pretty valuable.
I like that. What do you think the ideal entry point is? And don't say when a person's born, their parents should teach them about financial planning. What I mean is like the average person who's listening to this now is saying, hey, he's got some good points. I love the flat fee thing. I assume that the flat fee is somewhat related, or you've calculated realizing that if you're going to manage the people's money and help them financially plan, they can't go bankrupt paying you that fee. So I got that part. I assume it's in line or less than what ends up the corollary version of the percentage. So when should the ideal person? When should the average person, ideally call you?
If you, as a household, are making north of $100,000, you probably should start thinking or talking to a professional. If you are making north of $150,000, I really, really highly encourage you to speak to a financial professional because you are extremely wealthy from a worldly perspective. You have wealth, you make great money, and you can do something incredible with that. If you make less than 100,000, keep going. Keep hustling, keep grinding, try to raise your income, try to lower expenses, and do anything that you can. I want you to make as much money as you possibly can. I think if you are, again, north of 150 and you have not even thought about, or if you think that you don't make enough to talk to a financial planner, then that's where I would challenge you on that.
Got it. And of the 4 pillars, you said the 4 things that people should have. It was
Investments,
investment,
financial
planning, tax
filing, and estate planning.
Which is the one that people miss the most? Meaning don't have or don't think is or think is least
estate planning.
Estate plan. Now, in the
no
estate
one has an
part,
estate planning, especially in their 30s.
In the estate planning part, you said there's will, guardianship.
The 3 basic documents are will, power of attorney, and medical directive. That over 18 or 21, those are pretty much documents that every single person then should have. Then if you have kids, a guardianship paperwork is extremely useful and helpful. And then if you have a more complex situation, a revocable trust can be a great tool.
So let's take out the medical directive because I don't really want to get into challenges with medical directives and how people really get messed over because that will depress me more than anything else because everyone just has to. It's ridiculous. Why do people not focus on the estate planning? And part 2, like we opened with, what's the major upside to starting early on financial planning, on estate planning, not financial planning, as part of your financial planning, estate planning? And I got the downside. What you think your estate is going to be is not going to be it. You probably end up paying more taxes, and or your kids will probably have less of that estate because you haven't planned for it. But what's the upside at 28, newly married couple, combined income 150?
The upside for estate planning is the gift to your loved ones. You don't create an estate plan for you. You create an estate plan because someone depends on you and you love them enough to do something that is slightly uncomfortable, takes just a little bit of time, a little bit of sitting down, critical thinking, and brainstorming. You do that for your spouse. You do that for your parents or your beneficiaries or your siblings or whoever you want your wealth to go to. That's why you do it. Because if something happens to me today, then how can I make it the easiest, cleanest, and fastest way possible for my wife and kids to be set up for success? If something happens to our whole family, how can I set up my parents, my in-laws, my siblings, my friends? How can I set all of them up for the best chance of success? That's by sitting down and taking 1 hour of your time to write this stuff down, have it documented, go through the work. I think that's what sets apart successful people from lazy. Feels like a strong word because I don't want to say it's lazy, but that's what sets apart the successful people is, like we talked about earlier, critically thinking 1, 2, or 3 stages in advance of where you currently are today.
I love that. Your bio or your one pager says something fascinating. I always try to bring this in because people think I don't read them. And as I said, we will not discuss half Ironmans, marathons, or cycling because I don't really want to talk about that with you. But you say something very interesting, and that is we help clients simplify their financial lives. Got that. But here's what I love. And make confident decisions. What have you seen when people get that confidence? What have you seen? How does it multiply in their hustle when they realize that there's a plan and they can get there? Yes, everybody, if I took that line out, I just want to read the rest of the sentence. You could say we help clients simplify their financial lives so they can focus on what truly matters, family, wellness, and purpose. I got that. And that sounds like a Ken line. What I love is and make more confident decisions, because what I assume ends up happening, and I would love for you to dig into this, is you then make more confident decisions in the rest of your life when you know that your finances are in order.
The average person makes thousands of financial decisions every single year. And some people just leave them up to choice or hope or something else instead of confidence. A goal without a plan is just a wish. So why are we leaving some of the biggest, most important decisions up to just a wishful thinking, right? So that's what I tell people is there is no such thing as a dumb question. I'm sorry if you say that line, like dumb questions. I hate that saying because that's what scares people away from asking a question at all. Everyone is sitting there, something's burning on their mind. They really want to ask, their heart rate is raising, and they're too afraid to ask it because they don't want to come across as dumb or uneducated. So I tell every single client, there's no such thing as a dumb question. I want to be one of the first people you think of if it's something exciting or scary or life-changing. I want to celebrate the good with you, and I want to cry in the hard moments with you. We're going to have lots of conversations and make a lot of decisions together. And if I can even just slightly make your financial decisions a little bit easier, reach out. I don't care how small it is. Should we be spending X amount on groceries? Is this a good choice? Is that a bad choice? Should I buy this? Should I buy that? I want to talk about the smallest of the small and the biggest of the big. So I never want someone to hesitate about reaching out because if they're afraid that I'm going to judge them for a decision or a question, then we can't even trust each other. If we can't trust each other, there's no relationship. So all of that has to start. We need to walk through life together. We need to trust each other. We need to love each other. And that's why this business and why I'm so passionate about this is because it's really hard to talk to your friends and your family about this. That's another norm that I hope we can break. I hope that we can be more confident and have more of these conversations with the people that we love. But at least I can start by coming in and then becoming that special person in your life where we can talk about some of these things.
Absolutely love that. Everyone should check out the shorts. You should learn something. Joel's myth busting. And it's never too, I would say what I've learned from this conversation and from others is that it's never too early to start planning, and it's also never too late. So even if you think you missed a boat or you're not in that early 30s category that we said, Joel's a great resource. And even though he's in the Twin Cities, but that's better than Chicago. As you know, Joel, and thank you for being here, we have a closed tradition on this podcast where we ask our guests to leave us with their favorite motivational or inspirational quote and what it means to their hustle. And with that, I'll once again say thank you, Joel Miller, for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. If you guys have made it this far, and if you haven't heard this in a while, I'm proud of you. You are hustling. You are working. You are trying to better yourself. So I appreciate you being here, and I can't wait to meet you. So if you like what you heard today, and if you want to learn more, go to the website, flamesfp.com. If you want to learn about a membership, and if it's right for you, let's have a free introduction meeting so I can hear your financial journey and hear more about your story. If you like what you heard, but maybe a membership's not right for you right now, follow me on Instagram and YouTube, Joel Miller Finance, so that way I can help educate you. Let's raise the floor. Let's become more financially literate as a nation. So that's what this is truly all about. Equip yourself and equip someone else. Go teach it, go learn it, and then go teach it. That's how you're going to learn it best. So I'll leave us with this. My favorite quote and why I do what I do. This should be the spirit of every entrepreneur that wants to change the life of hundreds or thousands of people. Be the change you want to see in the world.
Mahatma Gandhi. Love that.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Joel. This has been another episode of Keep Hustling. Remember, do well by doing good. And of course, and always, keep hustling. All right, hustlers, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you for listening. The listeners are the most important part of this show. If you like what you heard, please leave us a review wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more listeners. Plus, be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. We have some amazing guests and topics lined up for you, and we don't want you to miss out. And finally, if you have any suggestions, comments, or even just want to say hello, please feel free to reach out to us on all social media platforms. We are Keep Hustling Pod on Instagram, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We would love to hear from you to continue the conversation. Thanks again for tuning in and supporting our podcast. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. Until next time, stay curious, stay hungry, and keep hustling.